Hi guys, and welcome to episode 71 of Quinton's Guitar Corner. And in today's episode, I'm going to be doing a gear rundown with the guys in Profundis. I have Paul here, I have Shoi here, and they're going to be taking me through what they use guitar-wise and amp-wise. So with that in mind, let's get stuck right into it. Enjoy. So to start off with, we're going to talk to Shoi here, and he's going to be taking me through what he's got here. So Shoi, over to you.
Sure. So I've got here the Ibanez VTB 700. So you may remember around sort of the mid 2000s, Ibanez finally released a V-shaped model.
Yeah.
It didn't last very long. I think they sort of took it out and let Jackson and ESP run the market with that. But I was really lucky early last year in 2017. I've been hunting for one of these for years because I've always dreamt of having a V-shape. And Profundis has got Ibanez endorsement, so I had to sort of make sure I was playing still an Ibanez on stage. So I've located one on eBay, and this lovely lady up in Sunderland doesn't play the guitar but collects guitars, and had this one, and she actually checked us out online when I put my sort of interest for it. I said, right, you can have it because you're doing this properly. So I'd only part with my baby if it was
right. I
properly.
see.
So I was really glad to get my hands on it. I mean, it was a little bit of a shot in the dark because I'd never really played a V-shaped Ibanez before, and I have to say this guitar's just amazing. I mean, the neck, if you, I don't know if it's going to do justice here, but the neck is super flat. I mean, this is really made for shredding, really. I mean, there's no other description of it. It came with some EMGs 81s and 85, so 81 on the bridge, 85 on the neck. I was going to change them because I'm not a big fan of EMGs. I used to have EMGs way before. I got bored of them. I always describe the EMG for me as like having a chewing gum in your mouth for too long. It just gets that sort of, and
that's a great description.
Yeah, it's just, when you get that feel that, oh God, this is just not, I get the same feeling with ESPs because they're just quite sort of, it's a standard sound to it.
Right.
But I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. I've spent money on the guitar. Let me give it a go with actually playing EMGs on stage. And there is something about EMGs. When you're playing death metal and you want a really precise cutting sound, there is a difference, especially when you don't always get the right sound on stage, or the front of house isn't great. Then ESPs do cut out really, really well. The EMGs again, sorry.
All good.
But yeah, so I stuck to them.
So I guess that as well. I guess a lot of people have the connotation that EMGs do sound the same across different guitars, but there is a subtle difference, I think, between different shaped guitars and all that sort of stuff. So
absolutely. I don't know whether I would record with these necessarily because I didn't record. I got this guitar actually after I'd recorded the new album, but definitely live it makes a difference. I do find when I'm playing live I can hear myself really well. There is a precision to it. Now I did on purpose actually go for a fixed bridge. Right. There is a bit of tremolo bar on the album, but live again, just to keep it simple.
Sure.
Because again we travel quite a bit. The tremolo bar just causes so much problem. For tuning and all that. So
sure. So like, do you know what bridge that is? I mean,
I don't actually know what kind of.
It looks quite unique. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it is pretty unique. I don't actually know what bridge. The problem with this guitar, there isn't actually that much online because it's been discontinued for like so long now. There actually isn't that much online about it. You struggle to find a lot of info. I don't think they sold many of these, which I find it crazy. Yeah. I have tried some of the other brands and their V-shaped guitar, and this was really, really
solid
on another level. It's a neck through as well, which is pretty amazing. So great sustain, and again in Deep Profundis we do switch between bridge and neck quite a bit. When we play for our solos, we tend to play in neck quite a bit. So it's got a really nice little control as well that it's quite far away, because I've got another guitar that's an ESP where I find the control really difficult. Half the time I'm trying to flick it back because it's gone up, of course, because of the way I've played.
Sure. So are these tuners locking tuners or just standard?
They're just standard. Yeah, but it does stay in tune. It stays in tune. There's no problem on that side. I did inquire about potentially one day installing a Floyd Rose, but in fairness, you don't want to. These guitars don't exist anymore, so you don't really want to be messing around with them too much. So
and a string through body too.
It's a string through body, so it's going to be too much hassle and too much.
So I imagine the string through provides a level of resonance that you don't necessarily get. Yeah. Right. Okay, that's awesome. Man.
I recently went to. So this is a funny story. I used to play on super light strings,
Right.
partly because over the years I've had some problems with tendonitis and all that kind of crap. But I was on tour. We were on tour with Belfagor around May, June, and Helmut took a real shine to us. But he basically lectured me a few times about my strings, and he said, and his parting words to me as we were saying goodbye for the tour, he said, "You're a great guitarist. Change your strings. Put some thicker strings."
Cool.
You know, so
what are you using?
So actually, they're still not that thick. So it's 1052.
Oh,
so
nice.
it's a sort of a hybrid one. But immediately it changed everything. Like the sound, it was so much crunchier.
Yeah.
I've always been a bit like, the old school way that, effectively your fingers
Do the
do the job. But yeah, no, there is something about the heavy gauge string, especially on the sort of bottom end when you're playing the crunching rhythms. There is something about the heavier strings that you just feel the riffs so much more. The top end is 10, so they're pretty light. We tune to standard D anyway, so we're not, we haven't got some crazy tunings going on here. So it's only everything is in D. But yeah, it does make a difference. And again, the tuning holds better. But to be fair, I never really had a problem with my tuning, even with the lower set of strings.
Yeah, because I guess it's like a lot of people have this misconception that if you are playing in like D standard, you need to be using like a 56 or a 58 and all this sort of stuff. But it all depends, I think, at least on the balance of the guitar, like how you set up your bridge, right down to even how you wind your string as well.
Yeah.
So it has that level of impact. But at the same time, you want something that is thick enough to be able to get that level, and especially in metal as well, when the tuning needs to be like.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it did make a difference.
Right.
I mean, I asked Helmut what he was playing. He was on 70s at the bottom. Yeah, I mean, those were like they weren't strings
This was
anymore.
cables,
They were cables. But like his guitarist who's only joined him on this tour, he's been forced to go higher and higher.
Okay.
And we had the discussion about how do you cope with your hand. He said, look, it's caused some problems, but you'll get used to it.
Right.
So I think everybody who starts playing death or extreme metal generally has had to go down that route to get thicker strings, just because you get a better sound. The intonation's better. That's for sure. That's one thing I can feel. My intonation really holds up all through the neck. There's no problem at all from that angle. So that's for the guitar really. So this is now my main live guitar with De Profundis.
Awesome.
We recently toured, and again, it's the old rock star thing of having to buy an extra seat for your guitar. So I had to get an extra seat to take it, because there's no way I would part with this one, because this is the only guitar that's available. I've looked for it. There's another one. If I can get a backup of this one, there isn't. I haven't found anybody yet selling another one. So I am trying to, because we got this endorsement with Ibanez, I'm trying to push them to see. I have said a few words that why don't you bring it back a V shape? Because they will sell. I mean, it looks like ESP and Jackson have taken the market for that, but it would be nice for them to release another one of these, because then I could have a backup for this
Awesome, man. That's amazing. Well, yeah, I remember these vaguely around 10 years ago when I was, so like back in the day, and I remember even playing one and just being blown away by it.
I think if I remember, even Sam from Dragon Force was playing one of these.
Yes, I think so.
I seem to remember seeing them live, and he was playing one of these, and I remember at the time I was surprised. Ibanez V-shape, wow, okay. It's not something they're known for.
Awesome.
So
all right, cool. So we'll move on to Paul now, and then nice one, man. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so now I have Paul here, and he's going to take us through what he's basically using guitar-wise. So over to you, Paul.
Okay, so this is my main guitar for touring and rhythm playing. It's Ibanez RG721. First of all, you might see it's kind of it's been through the wars. It's there's quite a bit of wear, simply because of, again, lots and lots of gigging and a slightly careless owner. But yes, I've been using Ibanez's for years. The first one I got was like when I was 13, and I got my first cheapo RG. But I've just always had a thing for they're so incredibly easy to play. It really is. The neck is like, the whole adage of a knife through butter. It just works great, really, really nice and smooth to play. But at the same time, it doesn't lose any
tonality.
aggression. Exactly. Yeah, I've always been really, really happy with the way that the Ibanez's sound.
So in terms of the actual guitar itself, do you know what the specs are? Like in terms of I can see it's a premium version. I mean, if you can tell me more about that.
Well, the first thing is I'm also using a version of a fixed bridge. It's the tight end Ibanez bridge. Now, despite my long-standing Ibanez fandom, I'm not a fan of Floyd Rose's.
Right.
It's too much. It's too much to go wrong. I've seen too many incredibly awkward gigs where someone will be there with his Floyd Rose, it'll snap, and the next 20 minutes of the guitar of the show is just this.
Right, I see.
Just desperately trying to sort it out. So I know that would happen to me if I was running a Floyd Rose, almost definitely. So I don't really bother with that. I've never felt the need for it. I don't do too much of the whammy abuse, so it doesn't affect me too much. Now so 24 frets as is usual. The pickups I've got on here, I'm actually using just the stock pickups for this RG, just because I like the sound of them. I like guitar sounds which have a lot of mid as well. I don't really like the overly kind of buzzy that completely
treble sound.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the dime bag tone. I
Right.
think for what we do, it's it's quite technical. There's a lot of very notey stuff going on. So actually, we need sounds which have a little bit more body to it,
and clarity, right?
Yeah, rather than just sheer aggression. We had we were doing a show in Budapest over the summer, and we were doing our sound check, and this guy came up. I don't even think he was a sound guy. I think it was the bar man was just bored or something. But he comes up to us like, "Oh, that sound you're using, that's not a metal sound. That's a rock sound. Do you need more gain?" It's like, who the hell are you?
Yeah, I can imagine.
That didn't go down well.
But I guess it works in context with the mix and how everything is sort of put together from once the sound man has carved the sound out,
yes.
right? Yeah.
I mean, the sound that kind of Shoi goes for, as with like the EMGs or the bare knuckles, it's slightly more, you get a little bit more of that
Aggression.
distortion, a little bit more aggression, and so when you have the mix between the two guitars, it creates quite a full sound where like all bases are covered. I think that's something you see too much, where you'll have two guitar players who like their approach will be way too similar. Like you'll have exactly the same
rigs, yeah,
exactly the same rigs done in exactly the same way, and it means that you lose something in the sound.
Sure.
Whereas I think with the way we do it, we managed to rein that in.
Cool.
So it's a bolt-on neck back here. So just again, what I like about this guitar, what I like about these kind of fixed bridge Ibanezes is they have everything you need and nothing you don't.
So in terms of it being a bolt-on, I mean, I guess that makes it easier from a touring perspective,
yes,
right? But then when you're going to different countries, different climates, all that sort of stuff. But then in terms of if we steer away from tuning for a second, but the neck, for example, I've noticed is a lot rounder on the back, but then the fretboard is like totally flat, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, well, the other guitar I play, the guitar which is my main lead guitar, which I record a lot of my solos on, is actually a Fender American Stratocaster, like a American Deluxe humbucker, single kind of deal. So I am quite used to that kind of the slightly bigger necks.
shape, right?
Yeah, I mean that completely just came out of my Yngwie fandom, really.
Yeah,
my
yeah,
Yngwie Maiden. I mean, yeah, and that's not. Because this is the funny thing, I always find this guitar incredibly easy to play, but I think in comparison to a lot of other Ibanezes, it doesn't actually confirm to a lot of the really stereotypical things that the Ibanezes have.
I noticed that earlier when I jammed on it a little bit. It was like, oh, this actually it feels not, you do have, your standard like RGs and prestiges. The neck is literally like it's like a ruler. Absolutely. But then when you're playing on this one, I did notice that there was a little bit more chunk, a little more bite.
Yeah, I think that the stereotype that you have of Ibanezes isn't completely accurate. I mean, it's really, it's easy to forget that I've had guys like George Benson, with Ibanezes. It's not just your typical 1980s kind of shrapnel record shredders that use these kind of guitars.
No.
So I've never just. I don't know, with stuff like, I know with a lot of metal players, really ESP is kind of seen as the be-all end-all, but I've never quite gravitated towards them. I did consider getting one of the Eclipse shapes for a long time, but I always come back to the Ibanez, that feel. I mean, when I'm teaching all my students, if they even look in the direction of something where the gain is above 4, like you know what you need to get. You need to get an Ibanez. You need to join the cult.
Join the cult, of course.
The strings I'm using here, I'm sure Helmuth might be quite disappointed when he hears this, but I've currently got 9s on here. I just 9s to 42s. Really, the strings I use depend on whatever I'm doing at the time. I mean, when we were doing some of the shows over the summer supporting the Blinding Light of Faith, we, for example, the Bloodstock show, I was actually I had 11s on here.
Wow.
Just because, I mean, yeah, you know, it's a little bit tougher to play, but you get that extra bit of chunkiness.
And I guess when you're playing a show like Bloodstock or a show generally, you know, you are going to tend to hit harder because you are performing. You are going to, you know, tend to give a bit more. The adrenaline's kicking in as well.
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, my entire approach to playing guitar comes from I like to use thick picks, and I like to pick lightly.
I guess with the Ibanez, it doesn't necessarily enable, but it basically allows you to enhance that level of dynamic because of what you're basically using.
Yes,
Cool.
yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it's just the two humbucker pickups, nothing in the middle. I've never quite liked having with Ibanez having a pickup in the middle, just because it kind of just clogs it up a little bit too much. I mean, I don't. Yeah, likewise with my picking technique, I don't dig in very much anyway. But it's just I like having the space there.
Very utilitarian.
Maybe it's a totally kind of like a placebo kind of thing. But yeah, I mean,
I love the natural finish
yes,
on there.
Yeah, exactly. I've never really been a fan of like guitars with too much kind of sheen to them in that way. I do like the kind of the sort of wood looks to them, especially kind of these brighter ones. I know that's not very much an extreme metal thing to do. Usually, you know, when either.
Well, when I saw you live, that was what I was literally looking at the guitar, just thinking like, damn.
Yeah, I like the reflection of the light with, you know, a lot of stage lights. I know it's usually either, you know, black as night or red as blood is the done thing, but I hate playing on stage with like guitars which have too much kind of shine, because you have that old, you know, that problem of any fingerprints will shine up massively. Again, so with some of the battle wounds you can see on here.
Yeah, totally. It looks like you've made your mark on it.
Yeah, sure. That's one way to put it. That's actually for in my other band, for my carriers, I used to play with gauntlets, and again, I palm mute a lot. So
there you go.
For reasons as you can see, I don't do that anymore. But like I said, this guitar's been with me for hundreds of shows. It's been in the back of vans, in the back of cars, next to us on airports. Thank you, Ryanair, for making us do that. That's very, very, very considerate of you. We totally didn't need the extra 70 quid or so, which an airline seat would cost.
Oh, wow.
But that's them.
All right.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what other cool stuff. So I've just got standard tuners on here. That is the one thing I would like with this, like with my, you know, with some of my other guitars, I have locking tuners, and it is a right breath of fresh air just being able to be so relaxed with it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Cool.
that's pretty much it.
All right. Cool, man. Well, okay. With that, we'll move on to amps and see you guys in a second.